Now for the last session of the day, we have with us the legendary Tim Draper, venture capitalist and founder, Draper Associates, in conversation with our own Neville Taraporvala, President, The Times Group, North America, about the fine art of investing in the best companies and what it takes to be a truly successful investor. I'm taking notes, Neville. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm extremely pleased for our last session to conclude the day. I have the legendary Tim Draper, the Silicon Valley investor who has been so successful. Welcome, Tim, and thank you for accepting our invite to be at the ThinkIndia virtual event today.
Terrific. Thanks for having me, Neville. This is just great. And everyone in India, think.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yes. So, Tim, we're going to roll quickly. The art of investing in early stage companies. I think you've perfected it. You invested in Tesla. You invested in SpaceX. You invested in Robinhood. So, when these entrepreneurs came to you, what excited you? What is the secret sauce that you had that you seem to have, sort of everything you've touched seems to have turned gold?
It's by no means is this a perfect science. There is no perfected in this. But I can give you a few thoughts, and I've been in the business for 35 years, and so I do have a good set of biases that I concentrate on, and those are, I find that I do the best when I think, what if it works? If this works, and this person really does implement everything that they say they're going to implement and more, what does the world look like? How great would that be? And when I have that, whereas, I used to have a lot of partners, and now I just, I make all the decisions myself. But I used to have a lot of partners, and they always identified all the things that could go wrong because they were very bright people, and that's the way they were trained, and it made perfect sense. But as it turns out in venture capital, since the way you make money in venture capital is how high is up for your big winners, not as much what percentage of companies succeed versus fail. It's much more important to have a really big winner, something really big. And if that is the case, then what you're really looking for is, hey, let's do something really important. Let's do something incredibly valuable, something that will really change the way people think, work, act, do, and maybe make the world a better place. Maybe it solves global warming. Maybe it solves a pandemic. Maybe it solves the borders. Maybe we're all borderless. And I think with entrepreneurs doing really extraordinary things and trying new things and trying extraordinary things, I want to make sure it's really important. The second thing is I want to make sure that the entrepreneur is completely aligned with this mission. Have they been building to this point for a long time? Have they? Is this all they really care about? Is it when people say I'm a serial entrepreneur, I immediately shut off because I think, well, and then you'll just be here for a little while and then you're gone, and I need somebody to run this company. I don't want to have to go hunt for a CEO.
Right.
And then the other thing is, I think, in general, push for a future you want. Invest into a future you want. And I think that goes for not just venture investing. That's all investing. Invest your time and your money and your efforts all in a future that you want to see.
Right.
And so I want to see a decentralized future. I want to see open borders. I want to see the world all coming together. So I invest accordingly. And turns out that's something a lot of other people want too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I want to talk about a little bit about how you decided to start the Draper University, and is it an extension of your objective of investing in these? It's Draper University is like I would say a innovation factory, which is where you sort of incubate. So how did that come in? And today, as you see, Draper University, it is a place of call for all entrepreneurs. They all want to be there. So how do you get them there? As to what's the bar that you set for them to get into Draper University?
So the bar is very similar to my bar for investing in startups. I'm looking for people with real passion for something, whatever it is, something that really matters to them and real deep knowledge in that one field. And that's what makes a great entrepreneur. If you go really deep somewhere and then you pull your head up and you say, oh, this is interesting, I can take that technology and apply it to this market and great things can happen.
Tim, with these successful investments which you've just done, these startups which have today become so large, like Robinhood and SpaceX, I want to move into this, into Draper University. Have you raised the bar? What's the bar that you have for getting these entrepreneurs into Draper University? So how did that happen? Something more on that.
Okay, so we started Draper University because we felt like the world needed more heroes. And because schooling, it teaches everybody to stay in line and don't make any mistakes. And it turns out that entrepreneurs are supposed to go out and make mistakes before they succeed. And so we created this new kind of school, which where people succeed if they fail, if they try things and fail. It's a very different kind of approach. And we take them through everything: hackathon, survival training. They end up doing some business modeling, business planning, and then they do a 2-minute presentation to a panel of venture capitalists, and then they just go and start their business and see what happens. The feeling is it's got to be freewheeling and open, and people have to do things. If you're going to really run a business, you have to do things, and you have to make calculated risks and just go, and then see if that doesn't work, you try something else. So anyway, we started this university, and at first I didn't really know what I was doing. I did basically what I'm teaching. I tried a lot of things and failed and failed and failed. But the remarkable thing about the school is that it worked. And it has, now we've had 2,200 students through it, and they've started about 600 companies. And and what's really fun is Harvard and Stanford say 85% of our graduates go off and get jobs. And what we say is our average graduate creates 4 jobs. So our graduates go off and do great things, really extraordinary things. And it's because we're training the human, we're training the heart, not the head. Well, we train the head a little bit too.
Right.
Anyway, this school, what I didn't realize was that the school was also going to be a great source of deal flow for me. We have now 2,200 students that are out there scouting for venture capital. And we have had really an extraordinary time of it, and we feel like it's a great use for people's time. People come back to me and say that was life-changing for me. It was so important. I never would have started this business. And a few of the businesses actually have hit unicorn status.
Unicorn status.
We call a rhino a $10 billion market.
Okay.
But a couple have hit unicorn status. Some have been sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. And these are students that just came through my university and got their business going and succeeded. And I think sometimes people just need that encouragement, and we give them that encouragement, and then we also train them in very unique and unusual ways.
That's fantastic, Tim. It's so selfless that you're teaching them such good things. And like you said, every entrepreneur from from Draper University creates 4 jobs, which is
Yeah.
so critical, right?
But
You know,
it's not selfless because I get to meet lots of other young people and get to train them and get them excited about entrepreneurship.
right.
Sometimes we'll fund them, so not
Yeah.
completely selfless.
Right. But the big thing is that you're sharing your knowledge. You see, a lot of people don't share that knowledge that easily. And I think that's a critical part of, getting these entrepreneurs. They learn from you so much, your experience, and nothing can replace experience, right? And which is where I think you do that so well. And that brings me to the success of Meet the Drapers. How did you get, how did you think of Meet the Drapers? You chose India as a market, to sort of beam your show in the last couple of years, and we are delighted to partner with you on that. But even before we became your partner, you had already thought of it. So what made you think about India as a market that you would look at?
Well, it was about 30 years ago. I went to Hollywood and I came to them with an idea for a show because I thought it was so interesting what I did. And I thought the world should see all these interesting things that I do. I interview all these entrepreneurs. They're fascinating people. It's a great thing to do. And 10 years later, they came up with Shark Tank. And later on, I thought, there's this new crowdfunding thing. And so it gave me the idea again. And it reminded me that I had wanted to do a show way back when. And so I thought, well, let's do a sort of a nice Shark Tank with real entrepreneurs that really are going to potentially be really big business. And not only that, but will allow the viewer to invest. And that was a breakthrough. And now we're 5 seasons in. And yes, we did target India because we know that India is right at the cusp of a major breakthrough in entrepreneurship and venture capital. And so we felt like we wanted to have our brand well known in India. We also wanted that audience. We wanted that entrepreneurial audience because we wanted people who, wanted to sort of see what the entrepreneurship thing was all about and give them a chance to be an armchair quarterback or even a real quarterback where they, I don't know if there's such a thing, armchair coach, maybe in soccer or in cricket, but in football, the quarterback is the one who calls all the plays. American football.
Right.
So we created this show, and it was really fun to create. And I got together with my dad and my sister and some of my kids, and we put this show on, and it turned out it worked. Now 12 million viewers, and we're expecting 30 million this year, and that's around the world. And so it started in India, and it grew very well in India, and now throughout the U.S., lots of other places, we're seeing a lot of traction in it. And we think it might be an interesting new model for venture capital. So it's and we do see some interesting companies on the show. If you've watched the show, you've noticed that there are some companies that are creating 3-dimensional homes or making burgers out of kelp, or very interesting things that come through, and we're happy to be able to support them. And a lot of them we end up funding, and hopefully those turn into big businesses too.
Yeah, and I believe that now you're looking at different geographies and countries where you have preliminaries and then bring them out here into the Silicon Valley, as I understand. So, any views on how you're going to move that internationally?
Yeah, we actually are. I'm going to make trips around the world as I have in the past, but before COVID, and then we got locked down. But I'm going to be making trips around the world, stopping in different places, having business plan competitions or casting calls, I guess we call them.
Right.
And the top businesses then will be on the show. Some of the show will be the competitions too.
Right.
just going from place to place. And we think that that will really bring more and more entrepreneurship to light around the world, which has always been my mission in life, is to spread venture capital and entrepreneurship around the world. Seems to be working in India.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the show's been great. We love it and really enjoy working with you,
Thank you.
the
Great.
brand team and the Times team.
Thank you. Yeah. So moving on, you're a great proponent for blockchain technology. Could you give us your views on blockchain and how you believe? And I know there's a lot of people saying it'll change the world, etc., but something which you strongly believe about the blockchain technology, which you can tell our audience.
Sure. Well, Bitcoin was such a major breakthrough because it was a new currency, but it was also a new technology, the blockchain, and another new technology has spun from it, which is smart contracts. If you put those three things together, you can completely transform some of the biggest industries in the world. The internet had a big impact on the world. It transformed communications, information, gaming, entertainment, media, taxis, hotels. Lots of things got transformed by the internet. And they were big industries. But the biggest industries in the world have to do with money. And those are finance, commerce, banking, government, insurance. And those are the biggest industries in the world. And now we have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is just better currency. It is open, transparent, global, frictionless. I can move money from one place to another. If I create value and hold it in Bitcoin, I don't have to be subject to the political whims of some central government printing too much money or creating too much inflation or disallowing the currency, whatever. And so it's great for entrepreneurship because it helps people feel like, hey, if I work really hard and I try this new thing and I take a big risk and it works, I will have something that is solid, that no one can take away from me. And that is particularly valuable in places like Argentina, where the Argentinian peso has constantly dropped. I have a friend in Argentina who said, my family has created a fortune 3 times, and 3 times we've lost it to currency manipulation by the government. Wow. And so he was all excited about Bitcoin, and he said, I'm only 30 years old, so every 10 years we build a fortune and then we lose it to the government. What's great about it, it creates great incentives for entrepreneurs to do something extraordinary, and then they will have some sort of a nest egg. And there are only 21 million Bitcoin, and that's all there will ever be. So when people hold it in Bitcoin, they know they've got it. The other thing that it's really great for is that it's global, and I can send you money. It's the fastest thing in the world. I can send you Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. I can send you any number of great cryptocurrencies immediately. Boom, straight to you. And that doesn't have to go through 3 levels of bureaucracy, the customs office, the whatever. It just shoots. And it's a great way to pay people overseas. It's a great way to do remittance. And so that's been incredibly valuable too. And long term, I look at Bitcoin and I think of it as trust and freedom. It allows the freedom to operate globally, to think globally. You can work anywhere, you can do whatever you need to do, and you can amass your fortune in Bitcoin. And that's the freedom part of it. And the trust part of it is that it is a trusted third party and does not require banks and governments and people and friction and bureaucracy to build that trust. It's all the trust of a bunch of algorithms and software, and so you get it. And And trust and freedom are the key to any government success. Trustworthy, and trusted governments are the most valuable. Singapore was the least trusted country in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they were one of the poorest. And then Lee Kuan Yew came in, and within about 70 years, he went from the poorest country in the world to one of the richest countries in the world, and per capita. And the argument, and that's the argument for trust. Lee Kuan Yew just built trust one brick at a time into Singapore. And the argument for freedom is that there was that line drawn between North and South Korea after the Korean War. And that's also been about 70 years. And it's been the perfect experiment between capitalism and socialism. North Korean was socialist dictatorship, Marxist economy. Everything was centrally controlled. Government told everybody what to do, what they could eat, where they could go, all of that. And in South Korea, it was a free market, free open system, democracy, open borders, and part of the free world. And what happened? Well, 70 years later, this country became these two countries. And South Korea, the average South Korean makes 460 times what the average North Korean makes, and that's when you adjust for purchasing power.
Right.
And the average South Korean is now 4 inches taller than the average North Korean.
Okay.
So it's pretty clear that there is a better way to go.
Right.
And it is capitalism, it is freedom, it is free markets, and it's trust. And any government who can put freedom and trust together, they're going to win. They're going to win big. So I hope that India takes that path. We actually have, there's something called the Draper Hero Institute, and they're doing ongoing research on countries and states within the U.S. and measuring each of those countries on an index. And freedom and trust are a big part of that index. And that index is how viable that country is for entrepreneurship. It's called the Draper Innovation Index.
Mm-hmm.
And like a country can move down if suddenly they take away freedom of speech.
Right.
They can move up if suddenly they say Bitcoin's a national currency, the way Japan and El Salvador and Ukraine recently did.
Right.
And so that will be an ongoing measure of the innovation index is an ongoing measure of how attractive a country is. And India is on the rise, but it sort of depends on what the government does. Weird how hugely impactful a government can be, and how great it can be if it allows its people the freedom they need to excel and build wealth and create jobs and do all the things that great entrepreneurs do.
Right, right. Thank you. That was very interesting. Just before we conclude, I have just one, request for you to send a message to the Indian entrepreneurs. At the last count, there seems to be 24 unicorns. I just heard yesterday there were 30, and there were over 9,000 startups. So all this activity which is going on in India, what's your message for these unicorns? And at the end of the day, execution is the key. But any message you'd like to send these 9,000 plus startups, the 24 plus unicorns which have suddenly come up overnight?
Well, there are 1.4 billion Indians. Why are there only 9,000 startups? That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And I think that my message to entrepreneurs is just do it. Enjoy it. It's a great journey. And if it doesn't succeed, just know that you move the progress ball forward. You weren't just sitting there being another cog in the wheel. You were the wheel. You created something of great value. And if you do succeed, good on you, as they say in Australia. That is awesome. And and you've created something that customers love, and it's amazing. And so feel great about yourself, and the great successes should be celebrated. You should celebrate them even if they're your competitor. You should celebrate all the successes of all the entrepreneurs in the world, because they are making your life, all the lives of all of the people around the world, better. I think the best entrepreneurs are always focused on the customer, how you can make the customers so happy that they delight everyone around them and they spread the word, and so that your customer becomes your sales force.
Great. Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you for being on this session. We really, value whatever you've just said. I'm quite sure all what you talked about entrepreneurs, you talked about trust, most important. I'm quite sure people who have logged into this session would definitely take something out of what you've, very important statements that you have made. So once again, thank you for being at the Think India event. And I look forward to having you once again next year. But thank you for now. Okay.
Good. Yeah, my pleasure. That was fun, Neville.
Yeah.
And we'll keep going with this Meet the Drapers thing. I think it's just gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger.